Ladies and gentlemen, get the book Dr. Joshua Bowen wrote, The Atheist Handbook to the Old Testament. It is extremely full of knowledge and information for anyone, as well as join the Patreon. There's hundreds of videos that have been not released to the internet. You can ask questions and I will record them with these scholars in high definition. I do that all the time. You can also personal message me and you help the community grow. Thanks a lot. Dr. Josh, Dennis Popek, one of my patrons, has a question, and he says, I really enjoyed your discussion with Dr. Josh. Smart, funny guy. As you well know, Satan gets used a lot in the Christian community, and none more so than with the highly promoted and commercialized Protestant evangelicals, for the cause of most everything counter to Christian message and the troubles in the world. However, much of what is attributed to the head evil dude does not appear to be at all properly represented in the biblical narrative as portrayed so liberally by Christians. If appropriate, would you ask Dr. Josh his thoughts about the subject? Additionally, I would like to hear Dr. Price's thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, foosball is the devil, right? as Bobby Boucher's mama said. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm thinking of actually things that have happened recently in our community, things that, like the spiritual realm, the unseen realm, is a very real thing to a lot of people. So it's not so simple, I suppose. Or it's more nuanced than like the devil made me do it or something. But obviously every Procter and Gamble, anything made by them is satanic. But no, so the idea of how this idea of Satan developed is an interesting question. Of course, you had Elaine Pagels on that. She's written a book on this, developing this. So she knows much more about it, obviously, than I do. But when I think about people saying, this happened because of the devil, or this happened because of Satan, I really do think this goes back to, it has its roots in this apocalyptic genre, right? And the way that apocalypticism developed. And again, this is definitely a strength of John Collins, so, far more than with me. So I'll give you my 2 cents. The idea behind apocalyptic literature is that you have this duality, good and evil, and they're warring against one another. So when you look at something like Daniel 12, where the archangel said, I was fighting against the prince of Persia, so I was delayed. But when the prince of Persia goes, the prince of Greece will come. This is very much in line with this ancient Near Eastern idea of a city or a governing entity having its own divine being over it. I mean, you see this very early in the third millennium, for example, in the Stele of the Vultures, where Ningirsu, the deity of Lagash, is depicted holding his battle net, and inside of it are the enemies of Lagash. And this is depicted in such a way that on the opposite side of the stele, because he's winning in the spiritual realm, they're winning in the earthly realm. And this is how this works. This whole battle, this whole, border conflict between the cities of Umma and Lagash in Mesopotamia in this period is cast as a battle between the two deities. So Ningirsu is over Lagash, and the god Shara is over Umma. And so because they're fighting, it plays itself out in the reality. So I think this becomes this explanation for why bad things happen to good people, why bad things happen to the righteous. And of course, the natural outworking of that, I think it's, sort of its development, is that anything then that's bad,
or anyone
for that matter, becomes either the work of the devil or someone who is under the influence of the devil. And so it becomes this sort of all-pervasive thing. And Seth Andrews actually was recently on the Atheist Network group. You should go check that video out. It was really good. Love Seth Andrews. Love Oz. Biddy Buddha was on there as well. And they had a great interview with him about the satanic panic. And that's what this is all about, right? So what was it, in the 80s and 90s, you get this, if you play that song backwards, you hear Satan playing the musicians much like we would play a musical instrument. There you go. And you got Ouija boards and, so demonic influence all over the place. And again, but I think it harkens back to, if you've got bad things, they can't be attributed to God, who is good. They have to be coming from Satan or his minions in this more dualistic, spiritual, unseen realm.
So real quick, while we're in this, I love the painted picture, because that's what Elaine Pagels said, this same thing. And that's why I said anyone, because anything bad that happens, or anyone that typically, it's usually painted to the bad guy. And, if you look at like Job, if you look at the numbering of Israel with David, was that First Chronicles? Or maybe it's Samuel. I can't remember. One of the two books, they parallel each other. But one makes Yahweh look bad, and the other one makes Satan look bad. And anyway, just this idea is, you see, Satan keeps playing a certain role. And I don't think these authors had any intent or even idea that, later down the road, they're going to see that was the bad guy the whole time. Like, no, he's working for God, actually, as part of this committee, so to speak, as John Collins painted it. He said, God's on a throne, and he has all these guys around him, and one of them comes and is like, hey, this guy right here, and he's like, have you tested him?
It's divine counsel. That's right.
Divine counsel, simple as that, like any kingdom where you're testing your nobles.
Like any other ancient Near Eastern, divine counsel.
But down the road, you can see when dualism pops into the scene, and it's really a thing, how he easily gets tagged, or this character, the name, the title becomes an entity, and how it's easy to put that and go, oh, you know what? Duh, it was him. It was hidden in our scriptures the whole time, or something. Just like Christians will do with Jesus hiding in these prophecies. I'm sure they did the same thing. Yeah, right? Wouldn't you think that makes sense?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, this is how later interpretation of ancient texts works. And so I think this is why theological questions, they're interesting, but not really to me quite often, because my focus, the limited time that I have to do things, I tend to spend that on what's actually going on at the time of the writings and the later redactions and editorial processes. So then what is the book of Daniel about is a question that I'm interested in, not what did Second Esdras do with the prophecy in the book of Daniel. So, but it is fascinating to watch. And again, I mean, you see it absolutely everywhere today, to the point that, in these more charismatic circles, something good starts to happen. God is moving here. And then like a phone rings, Satan is trying to take over this meeting and we need to fight him. Or sort of Christian rap, particularly from like the 90s and the 2000s, throwing out the wicked, beating down the devil, It's a battle, it's a war. And of course, I mean, you see this, right, in the biblical text.
I hate to say this, but like, I'm not a big fan of the war on drugs at all, right? As someone who was in addiction, because the war on drugs, you would think people think, oh, this solves the problem, or this is going to work. No, what it's done is it's made a lot of people who are suffering with mental health issues or other suffering with different things they are the ones suffering from the war on drugs. And so I guess what I'm saying is this war against the devil is not a war against really Satan or even demons. If they exist, you're not doing crap to them. What you're doing is you're actually creating an us versus them mentality, is exactly what Elaine Pagels and you were saying, is the people who aren't on our side, biblically speaking, who don't believe like us, whether you're strict theologically or you're a little bit more liberal, but you still say, yeah, they're definitely on the enemy's side. That us versus them mentality, the people who suffer aren't the spirits, I would say, because they don't exist. But even then, it's the people.
Yeah. It's when you cast, I mean, it's otherness, right? If you disagree, you cast them with the enemy. You cast them with that which is bad. And I'm thinking about something recently that's happened, but where this becomes so dangerous and insidious, I think, is that in cases where you have somebody that says, look, if you have enough faith, you can pray and you'll move a mountain, this person will be healed. And then when they're not healed, well, either Satan worked his way in, you didn't have enough faith, and so Satan was allowed to come in and take control. Did you give place to the devil? In other words, it's victim blaming quite often. I don't think in a very real sense, because the person that you're giving this, what I consider to be false hope to, you're then blaming them, either directly or indirectly, for the failure of God to act. And of course, you're doing this. It doesn't seem so insidious because you're actually attributing the fault to the devil, but you've allowed the devil in either by not having enough faith or by thinking impure thoughts or whatever. So, I think it's pretty dangerous.
I agree with you. There's a video on YouTube I saw where they had like hundreds of Faith Hill preacher type people who actually died of an illness, and they're supposedly out here healing everyone, but they die of illness.
Well, listen, I want you at home right now. If you are sick, maybe I see someone right now who has a cold. Put your hand up to the screen. You have been healed.
And if you
in
want
Jesus.
If you want the full blessing, mail this check in.
Become a patron. And you can have this same healing.
Yeah.
It has to be a $10 patron, though. That's what I see.
Not a 5 or a 3. 10 times, because the Bible says 10 times those who folly toward the... I'm just kidding.
I feel like a very bad person now. But
No. But that's exactly what you see happening. Or, my friend here died, and so I need you to tithe, too early. No. Anyway... No, but seriously, the funny part is I think you and me have in common is wanting to know what it meant.
Yeah.
And this is the discussion I mentioned last time I was here that I had with Del Martin on the phone one night. And Del kept saying, what it meant, you'll never know. Don't even try. It's cool to maybe give a guess, but he's like, does it matter what Mozart originally meant when he wrote his music? Does it really matter what he originally meant? It's how people interpret it now that really matters. And I'm thinking to myself, I think if we could do a service of telling people what it originally meant and really say, sorry, you're out of context here. I understand how you would take it that way. And it's interesting to see people throughout history, for example, how they interpret Revelation. I mean, even Irenaeus is already reinterpreting the book in the 180s to say, this is applying to us. And then Athanasius does it, but he reinterprets even further to mean something else in the 3rd, 4th century. Yeah. So it's interesting to hear how they do that. Yeah. But I feel like if we can get to some sources here and we can say this is what it meant here, it tears down some harmful ideologies.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's some good stuff, sure. I mean, I hear Mozart and I could think about modern things and how I want to, but Mozart's not causing people to go commit suicide or bomb themselves or whatever they're...
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference is the authority that the people today place upon what they understand the the original writers to be saying and what that text actually mean. So if people were listening to Mozart today and saying, well, when I hear, an A flat, I'm very musically inclined. When I hear an A flat, it's telling me to kill people because that's what Mozart is telling me. And I think Mozart is speaking on God's behalf. So every time I hear that A flat, that's what he's telling me. A flat, go kill somebody. Well, then, we could say, that's crazy. Don't do that, dummy. But it might be more effective for that person if we could say, look, let's go back and see what Mozart actually meant, what he's actually saying. Look at what he says here. And he doesn't mean A flat, kill people, right? It doesn't work
or
that
more
way.
of a better analogy, A flat, when I hear that, as an example, that tells me they're going to hell. So now you got to tell other people they're going to burn.
Yeah, right.
Forever.
That's right.
By an all-loving God.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me. And then if you do go to the actual source, and let's just say there is a different way of maybe understanding this. Maybe it's annihilation. Maybe it's doesn't mean you have to believe it.
I mean, A flat, annihilation. I think that's what it is.
We figured it out.
Come on, somebody.
Hanama Shamada.
We're awful.
Thank you.
Sure.